Assalamu alaikum. You're watching Views and News and I'm Faisal Rehman live from our Islamabad studios. Today we'll be talking about a very important topic, and that is about this new wave of terrorism in Pakistan. Yesterday, 4 soldiers were martyred in Waziristan and around 10 were injured when a convoy was attacked, an IED, or perhaps it was also considered that there could be a suicidal bombing because the military personnel, they were showing the spot where he blew himself, and unfortunately 4 of our soldiers, the brave valiant soldiers, lost their lives, whereas 10 were seriously injured. Now this is not the first time that this is happening. It has been a regular feature, and then there was a truce signed between the government of Pakistan and the Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan. Another alarming report is that recently in the area of Swat, what we have witnessed is that according to the locals, around 400 to 500 Taliban they have entered. There's just one military unit posted out there, and then they have kidnapped a couple of the soldiers along with the DSP. But later on, there was this negotiation that took place between the Jirga officials and the related persons in the TTP, and they were released. But now this is of prime and serious concern. The demand of the TTP, along with so many other demands, one of the major one is about the imposition of the Sharia. Now, what sort of Sharia, which brand of Sharia do they want to implement in the Malakan division? Now, that is going to be a question and a half. Whereas at the second issue, which is pretty important, that is about the merger of FATA with KP, and they are against that as well. And then about swapping the prisoners and a couple of other details there are as well. We will be talking about that in detail, but sad news that I would like to share with you is that our former director news of Pakistan television, Rafat Nazir, she has passed away. She was suffering from illness for quite some time, and since we have also had a chance to work with her, she was a very competent lady, and may Allah Ta'ala bless her soul. And her husband also happened to be one of the former employees of PTV, Mr. Nazir, a very competent, a very decent gentleman. I hope the family, obviously they're passing through a very tough time right now. May Allah give them sabr, and may the departed soul gets the highest place in Jannah. Now coming back to the topic, let me quickly introduce you to our panelists. We have with us in our studio, on my right, is Dr. Syed Kaleem Imam Saab, former IGP. Thank you very much, sir, for your time. And on Skype, we have with us Lieutenant General retired Raza Muhammad Khan Saab, former President of National Defence University and Senior Defence Analyst, sir. Pleasure to have you, General Saab. Thank you very much for your time as well. And on the telephone, we'll be talking to Abid Latif Sindhu Saab. He's a Senior Analyst and Defence and political commentator as well. He'll be joining us around 8:30. But let me put the first question to you, Kaleem Imam Saab. Sir, whenever we see a patch where there is no act of terrorism taking place in Pakistan, whether you talk about Karachi or KP or perhaps Balochistan or any other major city like Islamabad or Lahore, for instance. But sir, lately, what we have been witnessing is that our military forces, or men in uniform, let me put it this way, they have been the target of the enemy. IED explosions, suicidal bombing, that has become a very regular feature now, sir. Sometimes we end up hearing that Al-Qaeda has gained a lot of strength, and they have been involved in some terrorist activities in Pakistan. At the same time, we get to know about IS Khorasan. Well, that is something which the Taliban do not want to exist in Afghanistan, but interestingly, they are there. And then there are so many other splinter groups, sectarian groups, and they have issues with the current regime in Afghanistan. But perhaps even despite the fact that Pakistan has asked the Afghan Taliban to act in favor of Pakistan and at least make sure that their soil should not be used against Pakistan. But sir, this has become a regular feature. Whether they don't want to control it, or it is beyond their capacity, beyond their willingness, or perhaps these TTP elements were a part and parcel while they were fighting against the occupied forces. Now, sir, it's a very interesting mix if you look at it. But sir, whatever is happening now, we all thought that once the Taliban will take over, things will be much better for Pakistan, since the Indians will be having a very loose connection with them, since they were not in touch with the Indians for the last 22 years, but now they are. Now, what sort of a situation do you see developing, Aji Saab, and tell us also and brief us that is this going to continue? But sir, if you allow me, we'll just show you a little report, a small report, and after the report we'll return and we will hear what IG Saab has to share with us. Now, interestingly, since we were talking about this very, very interesting element where we have seen that Pakistan has supported the counter-terrorism efforts in accordance with the international law. You talk about FATF. It has got so many important points that are also related to it. I think we have been able to justify in the West in a very, very appropriate manner. Then nation and the security forces resolute to fight against the menace of terrorism. This was what was stated by the President as well as the Prime Minister. But now let's have a look at this report.
Pakistan has long been courageously fighting with the melees of terrorism, and in this regard has sacrificed a lot in terms of monetary as well as lives losses. Despite these efforts, the geographic location of Pakistan makes it incumbent to be in an alarmed situation, specifically at the time when the Taliban-led government in neighboring unstable Afghanistan seems to be failing in catering the terrorists' infiltration and havening. Recently, 4 soldiers of Pakistan Army embraced martyrdom in a suicide attack on their military convoy in Mir Ali area of North Waziristan district. According to the ISPR, intelligence agencies have commenced investigations to find out details regarding the suicide bomber and his handlers, and asserted that Pakistan Army is committed to eliminate the menace of the terrorism. Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif and President Arif Alvi strongly condemned the suicide attack. In another incident, 1 person was killed and 5 others injured in a hand grenade attack on stalls selling national flags at Azadi Chowk in Khattak. According to police, the unidentified person fled from the scene soon after he threw the hand grenade on the stalls. Chief Minister Balochistan Mir Abdul Quddus Bizinjo has strongly denounced the attack and said that such cowardly attacks will not weaken the nation's resolve and vote to rid the country from the menace of the terrorism. Meanwhile, 2 terrorists were killed in an operation of security forces in Tehseen Kulachi of Dera Ismail Khan, and according to the police, terrorists attacked security forces in Kiri Malang area of the district and were killed in response of the forces.
Now, Aisab, we would like to listen to you now, sir.
Thank you very much. You see, in the realm of geopolitical development and what happens around, sometimes you can only understand some of the changes which are likely going to take place, what happen across in the regions and in the border areas. You cannot exactly predict, but you can just come up with some scenarios what happened. For example, what will happen when TTA has now taken over, and what was the situation which was existing before that. But I would say serving in police for almost over 33 years, and I've served in Balochistan for 10 years and served in many of these places in FATA where, first of all, I would say the armed forces of Pakistan has done a wonderful job. They are out there, they are fighting, they are combating, and they're doing a great job. But I'll come back to the basic. If you ask me what's happening now today, I'll always take you back to the genesis. And I would say, well, you came up with certain plans. Why didn't you execute those plans? Those executed would have been the future proposition and future strategies of Pakistan. For example, we have a national action plan, and we decided in national action plan that there are certain things to be done. Many has been done and have become obsolete, but one of them was the revamping of the criminal justice system. And I believe that with due process, with transparency, with rule of law, you can actually enforce the right of state. Then you see, you also have a national internal security policy. And then you also have now national security policy, security policy of Pakistan. The point is, you make these wonderful documents with inputs of lot many stakeholders, public, lawyers, journalists, and everybody. Now you have a way forward. When you just sleep over those way forwards and you are not ready to implement them, then this is what is going to happen. For instance, let me say, dialogue with all stakeholders, isolation of terrorists from their support system, enhancing deterrence and capacity of the security apparatus. What that means is that over the years, the first thing that we should have done is empower the police. You see, FATA has been merged. Why isn't the civil administration and police playing a 100% role over there? It's their job. They are the first responder. The civil armed forces, the frontier corps and the armed forces are the second and the last tiers, Here the strategy is that they are engulfed in the first tier, and I keep on suggesting to all my counterparts, empower police. They can do it.
So currently, are they empowered to an extent that we should consider them, within the bracket where we can say they have the capability and they have the capacity, both?
They have the capacity, they have the capability. You see, the police, the way it is recruited, it's all locals. As constable from the district is serving in the district, It's only the upper tiers they start moving in the regions and divisions, The local, when he works there, he has the pulse, he understands what's happening, people respect him, can also socially pressurize him. When he does a duty, he go back and live in the same vicinity. So he is your representative over there. Police is your first response, And I keep on telling everybody, if you don't like it, enhance his capacity, like you're just saying, but nobody else is going to do that job. You have to leave us enough space for someone else to come over and play the match for you. Let this 11 member players play the match first. So you need, in this all negotiation which is taking place, in whatever is happening over there, how active is Deputy Commissioner, how active is SP, how active is DIG. We have a very wonderful IG over there, Mohsen Jansari, is doing a great job. Empower him, give him the lead, and I'm sure that it's going to make a difference. You see, police lives in the community, it engages, it empowers, it gives and takes, There are lot many operations that it does, sometimes it retreats also. And when police retreats, it doesn't look good, doesn't look that bad, because it's their day-to-day affairs, Secondly, you have to follow the due process. You have to show that this man is a criminal, this man has done something bad, you have to bring him to the law. That is a social contract. And let everybody know that he did this, the physical arm of the state, the police has taken it, the law is going to punish him, hang him, or whatever it's going to do. If that is going to happen, there's going to be recognition in whatever acts that you do. So my answer to your question would be, empower police, involve them, get them into engagement. Even in Balochistan, I keep on saying the Chief Secretary and IG should have a lead role. You see, they are actually, by law, they should be taking the lead, and the rest just should come in support, and let these players have as the first brunt, and let them go ahead and let them negotiate, let them sort of engage, let them take the first action. So if you are not allowing sort of a motivating and inspiring the first apparatus to work, then the second and third tiers will face the first apparatus branch,
Which they're not meant for.
Which is not meant for, and which they should not be doing it. You see, the armed forces is a sacred institution and sacrosanct in that way. When it comes with a big punch. Let these small punches be held by the police, by the people who are on the ground. For example, the Sawat and the other areas, it all should be taken over by the civil administration and police. They should all recruit people from that area, go out with a heavy development programs, engage them in day-to-day activities, health program, education programs, get the community on your side, which is on their side, because many of this TTP that you're talking about are criminals actually. They are militant groups, and they try to use ideology as their force, like they want to enforce Sharia. But in deep down below, we all know what do they want. They want the regional autonomy in that area. They want the smuggling and all those minerals or whatever which is area, and to exploit all of them. This is what they want, and many of them are sort of a very downtrodden and mediocre people. Like some were barbers, some were cobblers, some were like rediwalas and all. They are actually the fighting force. So they were so harsh and brutal that they even took on the elders. They even took on the maliks. So you see,
almost eliminated them.
Almost. You see, this soft intervention, for example, form a national narrative. Have we done all this thing? You see, sometimes I may sound cribbing, but I say, well, when you decided you are going to do this, you see,
implementation seems to be the real issue here, sir.
The non-seriousness. If you have decided something, you see, engage youth in healthy activities.
Sir, quick comment before I go to Jalsa. Is it because of the political hurdles? Because I remember during the time of General Kiani, the Sawat operation took place, sir, and a lot of people got displaced. That was the first time we got to know about this word, internally displaced people, IDPs, and they were literally in millions. That was the time when there was lots of heat in Pakistan because it was summer over here. So those people used to live in Swat. They were sent to places like Peshawar, Nowshera,
Talnol,
all these areas.
E11,
Those conditions were miserable to live in, and eventually a lot
and
of
many of them haven't gone back, you know.
This is because they have lost everything out there as well. Sir, now, Jail Saab, coming to you, sir. Every time, whenever our soldiers are killed, sir, either with the help of an internally explosive device, this IED, or perhaps suicidal bombing or targeted killing for that matter, sir, we always hear that starting from the president to the prime minister to the ministers to the GHQ, everybody condemns it. And we always end up ensuring our nation and ourselves that, we are very resilient and we will fight them. We have been fighting them for a very long time, sir. The question now, General Saab, to you is that, sir, don't you think that we are still treating the symptoms rather than actually focusing on the real problem and the real disease? Your take, sir.
Okay, Bismillah Rahman Rahim. First of all, I disagree, with your last conclusion that we're only treating symptoms and not addressing the causes. I think we are actually addressing the causes of terrorism, and I think I totally agree with what has been said earlier with your guests in the studio about giving greater roles to the civil police and particularly to the provincial counter-terrorism departments as part of the National Action Plan. Of course, it was also rightly pointed out that all these plans should naturally and logically flow from the National Internal Security Plan, which was formulated in the tenure of the last government. But coming back to what you have discussed, firstly, sporadic incidents like NID blasts in Waziristan or some incidents in Swat. I think they are the remnants of the terrorists. Their sympathizers, probably some of their supporters, the sleeper cells, which may have been activated as a result of recent events in Afghanistan. As far as the news about entry of TPP into Swat is concerned, of course there are a lot of rumors about that, and one is not very sure whether actually 400 to 500 people have all of a sudden sprung up, or it is just an exaggeration. So you'll have to wait and see what actually comes out of that. Having said that, let me also say that for the last about decade or so, through sustained counter-terrorism operations, which were undertaken by the armed forces, security forces, including the police and intelligence agencies, through the National Action Plan, have substantially improved the overall security and law and order situation in the country. Continuous intelligence-based operations are going on, and I would actually make a mention of some of the major developments and which were undertaken in the past few years, and that was the reinstitution of the death penalty, new cyber security laws which are continuously being improved, the renewal of the Afghan refugee registration by NADRA in collaboration with the UNHCR refugee agency, the revival of the PAFIS system, which is the Pakistan Automated Fingerprint Identification System, the establishment of the Integrated Border Management Systems, or IBMS, and its integration with NADRA and police and intelligence databases are major steps in the right direction, and they were all part of the National Action Plan. Of course, the National Action Plan is old, and in the previous government, I think it was reappraised, and some additions and some subtractions were made in that. But I think this is an ongoing subject, and there are certain additional things which can be done, at the federal level and at the provincial level. We know that law and order is now essentially a provincial subject on account of the 18th Amendment. And therefore, I think they should be in the lead role and be accountable, for incidents that are happening in the settled districts. Of course, after the merger of FATA, I think additional resources must be provided to the KP government. And I think they were promised, I think, 1 or more than 1% of the total earning of the country of the NFC award. That has not happened, and it needs to
That was
happen.
the commitment, I remember, sir.
Yes, absolutely. So, in addition to that, I think we need to actually elicit the support of all segments of the society through engagement with the leaders of the local politicians, the religious leaders, the community leaders, who need to assist the LEAs in pointing out if there are, sleeper cells, local sleeper cells, or sympathizers or financiers living amongst them. They must come, and even if it is at the risk of some danger to themselves, they must do it, for the sake of their own, security, for the security of their friends and families, and for the sake of national security. Again, the private media needs to educate the people about performing their own obligations as responsible citizens, to help all the law enforcement agencies in identifying such elements which may actually be living amongst them, and which are very difficult, to otherwise find out or to trace. Although
All
there
right.
are intelligence-based operations which are undertaken, and the intelligence agencies have the capacity to find out such people. So finally, I would say that I think all the law enforcement agencies are on the job, and I think whatever remnants are left, they would be eliminated with the coordinated response of all the LEAs of Pakistan, inshallah.
All right. Now we've been also joined in by Abid, Latif, Sindhu Saab, who's a senior analyst. Sindhu Saab, Assalamu alaikum.
जी वालेकुम सलाम.
Good to have you in the program. Sindhu Saab, I'm sure you must have been writing and reading about what is happening in the region. Now, earlier we got to know that Al-Zawahiri was eliminated in a drone strike, and then it was confirmed by the Americans, and later on we got to know about Umar Khalid Khurasani. Now, I remember this gentleman was from the Moment chapter, somebody who was known for his very tough decisions, very harsh attitude, very criminal-like activities, and eventually this man ended up being in the top tier. Now, do you think this is the kind of revenge that has been taken since the killing of these 4 soldiers and wounding around 10? A. And secondly, also tell us that in your own personal opinion, do you think the government is handling it in an appropriate manner, or you believe that an additional, support should have been there?
Yeah, actually, I think that the first part of the question is that in 2021 there were around 240 terrorist attacks, and in the year 2022 there are about 100 attacks. Despite the efforts which Pakistan is has initiated in terms of trying to stabilize the border on both sides. I'm talking of western border. But as far as the effort of Pakistan government is concerned, as Dr. Kaleem was saying and General Raza has also mentioned, under the National Action Plan, and also as far as elaborated and very manifestly defined in national security policy, recent national security policy. There is a need to engage all the elements and all the segments which are creating disturbance so that we can have peace and tranquility in terms of our national security, so that we can concentrate on the other segments, which is the economic segments and the social part of it. But how can we reach there? How can we reach this place? And what is the path through? How can we traverse this journey? For that, I think we have to, as Dr. Kaleem was also saying, that we have to fight this ideology. And we can fight the ideology with an idea of Pakistan, idea of prosperity. For that, we have to create a new narrativity, and for creating new narrativity, we have to take the culture first of all, the culture of
now,
that
Sindhu
area.
Sahab, what's taking so long to build up a narrative, or to have a counter narrative for that matter, sir?
Yeah.
How many lives? We have lost around 80,000 people. Forget about the economic losses that have incurred. Just talk about those who have lost their loved ones. Talk about the ones who are injured, they have lost their limbs. You know what has happened? Military, civilians, school students, professors, I mean, you name it, and everybody was on the list, sir. Now, where are we lacking?
Sorry. Yeah. I was coming there. For every war, especially this type of war, which is being played at this particular terrain which we have in Fatah and Afghanistan, there are three things which defines the war. One is the terrain itself, the second is the tactics, and third is the technology. Now, if the two vectors out of this is on the side of one player, he will definitely win that war. And to understand that, we were taking this problem as only a kinetic issue. We have to take it as a cultural issue also, or in dimensions of social terms and in terms of the political warfare. You see, the Pakhtunwali, the Jirga system, the traditions, the Hujra, we have to consider all this, because this is a tribal society, and the tribal society has a very different mechanism through which it works. And that is the reason that the troops which are recruited from the local pool, they're very effective while negotiating, they're very effective while operating in the area, because they know the language, they know the culture, and they are very savvy to the environment also. So this part of the social part of it and the political affair part of it, we were lacking. The kinetic part of it, Army was doing a wonderful job there. It is still fighting, and it is,
so perhaps
giving
with the kinetic approach, you need to have a non-kinetic approach as well. Since you mentioned about the culture, you mentioned about so many other important aspects. Now, IG Saab, one important factor. Sindhu Saab mentioned that, one has to understand the terrain. Totally agreed, sir. I still remember when the security forces were fighting, and almost winter was approaching, and we were in the Shawal Valley trying to eliminate the terrorists and trying to throw them away. We lost a lot of soldiers during that time also, sir. Obviously, understanding the terrain and then knowing what is happening. Today, I was just going through this list of the martyred soldiers, sir. One was from Mansehra, one was from Kohat, another one was from Punjab, and so forth. Now, is it important to have all these soldiers from that particular area, sir? Or you feel that the non-kinetic approach, like the stick and the carrot formula, it has to work together. The non-kinetic approach, sir, and the values and the traditions and the norms and the culture which the tribal society enjoys, sir, we should keep that in mind as well. How important is that factor?
I think what General Raza just said, I'll just emphasize on that. You see, you actually raised a very good point, system or versus the root cause, Are you going to see the disease, or are you going to see why the disease is spreading? Now, this National Internal Security Policy, the comprehensive response plan, actually is well jotted down, and it is telling us what non-kinetic measures you need to take to actually get over to the root cause, And if you allow me, I'll just very quickly run through just few of them, because I'm trying to remind the nation and trying to remind everybody that we had APS. What could be a worse incident than that? And earlier also, so many of my friends in the armed forces and all, they got martyred in this area, and I feel sad for them, and I pray for them. But you see, they were supposed to be soft intervention, which was like changing the narrative, which was like participative political processes, strategizing extremism through dialogue, rehab of the temporary displaced persons you just mentioned about, Sawat, socio-economic development reform, engage youth in healthy activities, integrate madrasa in mainstream education system. Let's take the last point. It took us years, even now we are not clear whether it is to be under Ministry of Education or it is to be under Ministry under the religious ministry. The interior is actually calling the shots and actually holding the meetings. So how serious we are, you can well imagine. The issue is you have to nip the evil in the bud. You have to go to understand what is the root cause. All over the world, this is how people have handled trying to handle this extremism and radicalization process. I brought a RAND survey to share with you.
Please.
The RAND survey says how terrorist group ends, and it says that political negotiations 42%. Mainly, if you the world over, when there were the terrorism activities and how terrorism ends, 42 ended because of the political negotiation.
Tamil Tigers, IRA.
Joint police and intelligence operations 40%. Military action 10%. Terrorist groups succeeded or got merged 8%. Now coming back to this your point, we need to understand, we need to go to what documents we have. We need to train our staff on that, we need to build capacity on that, and we need to dole out resources on that. Here we have a situation where the sons of the soils are fighting, but we have a serious political crisis at the other hand. I don't know whether this is a priority, that this is already written down over there and we need to go against them, And so we need to focus that what we have already jotted, and this is an agreed, every political party agreed to this national action plan, and the armed forces were there, the police were there, and everyone was there. So why are we not implementing them? That's it. In Kashful Majub,
do we have political hurdles, sir?
We don't have political ownership.
Okay.
We don't have the will, you say, the will and a diligence to actually do that. And again, what Sindhu Sahab was also saying, you see, police has to take a lead in this, and let them get the bashing and let them go through the rat which is going to come and which they are already facing. There are more than 7,500 police officers who have died all over Pakistan, and we also lost an Inspector General, Sifat Gayoor, from the IG to the constable, including female officers, and same is the case with the armed forces. They are laying down their life for the security of Pakistan. I will come to that. If you allow me, I'll just quickly run through the national security policy 2022 and 26. Answering your question, again they are focusing, economic security at the core. Are we doing anything? This is a question. We are in a big mess at this moment. Judicious transfer of dividends to strengthen defense and human security. What are we doing for human security? Now already the document is there. Security of the citizens. So my point is that when we having talk shows and workshops and seminars, we are trying to find way forward. We have a way forward. My emphasis is implement them, build capacity on it, give technology. Let the person who is actually to be a, you see what is the importance of police taking a lead. They will register FIR, they will go to the court, they will take that person to the court, many of them will go there, they will stand there as a witness. When second or third tier of an organization is doing that job, it becomes very difficult for them. And why entangle them in legal affairs? When they are supposed to come, they are not supposed to, in many cases, come and maintain law. They are supposed to come and maintain order. When police and the state will go, they are going to maintain law, rule of the law. Here are set principles, obey, otherwise we will punish you. But if everything is jumbled up, then you would be looking for order. You would like to maintain order first.
Now, one quick comment before I go to Jalzab, sir, and that is about the approach. Interestingly, for example, one of the demand of the TTP was to remove the checkpoints. Now, so if you remove the checkpoints, it's just like as if you're calling them to come over, walk into our country and do whatever you want to do. Or merger of FATA, for example, is another problem. Fencing, I mean, they are talking about the fencing of the border because we really need it. 2,600 kilometers is not a joke, sir, but we are lucky that we have done it. Or perhaps when they talk about their economics or the livelihood, again, sir, because it is going to stop the smuggling and so many other aspects. Do you think, sir, these are the major factors also? Because if you remember Mullah Fazlullah, sir, the same problem started in Swat again. He had his own set of people. He took over from his father-in-law. Father-in-law really wanted Sharia. He had no other plans, but this man had some other plans. He was being fed, financed by so many other, I would say, intelligence agencies, and eventually it ended up in this mess, sir. Negotiation is the way forward, sir? Or if somebody is being fed, financed, given a certain hideout in another neighboring country, sir, they've got nothing to lose. The only thing they know is to fight.
You have raised a very pertinent point, in a society, who becomes a vagabond and how does he become a vagabond? When the police, see that someone is growing out of his size, they need to take action against him. When we know these monsters are coming up, we need to nip them. There is no negotiation with monsters. I'm talking about the other tiers, who might fall into it, who are looking towards it. We negotiate with them, or you give them a space. People who are ready to de-weaponize, people who are ready to accept that, oh, no checkpost, okay, no checkpost. But if they are saying, no, we are going to do this, then the state has to take kinetic action. And they have the physical power. And that is what the social contract is. Even in city, when you go to someone's house, you are supposed to declare you are the police officer, you have come for a certain purpose, and you have a right to have an encounter and engage with him if he is going to use force. Similarly with these groups, who are going to do this. Now, if the demand is what you are saying, and this is what their demand actually is, you need to be brutally, but ruthlessly ethical. You see, state has to be ruthlessly ethical. While fighting a crime, state cannot become a criminal himself or engage in activities. Where it is necessary, they will use cogent force and power and to overcome it. But wherever it's possible, due process.
All right.
Get hold of them, take them to the courts, let everybody know that this is what you have done.
All right. Now, General Saab, one important factor, and that is about the trust deficit. Obviously, if there is a culture, there's a norm, or perhaps these values, they've been there for the last centuries. Now, we can't change them overnight, sir. We had a system of Jirga and Qazi and all, and it was because you yourself, you're a Pashtun, you know better than we all do, that how things used to operate, how they used to work, and people were very satisfied with the decision making and everything. But once this, this ideology of the state was, sort of implemented, I mean, people had these so many issues, because when you talk to the locals, they have some genuine concerns. And then we say that, these people should be taken on board. Your take on that, sir?
Okay, I think you just have 2 or 3 minutes left, so I cannot answer all these questions in that. But I'll try and answer, some of the important aspects. First of all, you talked about, a counter narrative. That counter narrative is there. That is an excellent document. It is titled Pakistan Ka Qawmi Bayaniya. It is in Urdu as well as in English. This has been signed by no less than the President of Pakistan. Unfortunately, it has not been propagated enough. It has got actually international recognition, and we need to propagate it as much as we can. Secondly, we have been talking a lot about the demands of the TPP. We should actually be talking about our demands and emphasize on them. I think, and our demands are very, very clear. That I would call it our stance, and that is that TPP guys are Pakistani citizens. They've crossed into Afghanistan without any legal document, is passport or visa. They should surrender it to our LEAs, and they can get options in our force if they want to do that. They must respect our constitution and laws if they want to return. And the Afghan Taliban must hand them over to us. Both of them who are involved in heinous crimes. And I could go on and on. We should actually be emphasizing our demands to them. When it comes to some of their demands, which are unconstitutional, I think it has been said a number of times by the previous government, by the present government. They have declared our red lines, and anything that is unconstitutional will not be accepted either by the people of Pakistan or by the government of security agencies of Pakistan. I think there should be a lot of clarity on this amongst us, as well as, with the TPP or any other terrorist, whether they belong to Balochistan or any other groups. And once that is clear, I think other things will fall in its own place. Finally, I'd like to add that the government of Pakistan has given negotiation a chance, which is a good thing. And if negotiations fail, then obviously there are a number of ways to deal with the terrorists, their internal terrorists or external terrorists. We have a number of ways and means. We have done it in the past, and we are quite capable of doing it in the future as well.
All right. Now, Sindhu Saab, a quick comment from you, sir. We always talk about, eliminating the top leadership. You talk about the Taliban founder, Baitullah Masood. He was killed by a UN drone strike in South Waziristan in August 2009. You talk about Hakimullah Masood. He was killed in another drone strike in North Waziristan in 2013. You talk about Maulvi Naik Mohammed was eliminated. I mean, there's a long list. I can just go on. But, sir, do you think eliminating the top tier makes any difference, or you think the middle management group or the forces on ground matter more? Quick comment, sir. Last 30 seconds.
Yeah. I think the drone essentialism is, I think it is one of the aspects, but we have to also take other measures. Middle level leadership or middle tier leadership is also very important, because that is the level which actually engages the top level and the foot soldier. In that context, I think we have to take. And one last comment, as Bruce Riddle has, written in his book, that this war, this war, the Afghan war and the disturbance which is going on till today is not Charlie Wilson's war. It was Ziaul Haq's war. And to remind, us, it is a pointer that it is our war. We have to engage all the sinews of war, be it kinetic, non-kinetic, be it, the soft
there has to be a multifaceted approach, and perhaps that is going to look after issue. But anyway, thank you very much, Sindhu Saab. I would like to thank General Raza for his comments, and thank you very much, IG Dr. Syed Kaleem Imam Saab. It was a pleasure having you, and that's all we have for this. I'll see you inshallah tomorrow at 8:05 p.m. Till then, you take good care. Khuda Hafiz.